Nobody ever tells you that the moment your life changes forever will look like nothing. It will not come with a sign. It will not announce itself. It will look like a Tuesday afternoon in October, with the wind off Lake Ontario cutting right through your coat, and an old woman standing alone at a bus stop with 3 heavy bags at her feet, and nobody stopping to help her. That was the afternoon everything changed for Adaeze. She had been walking fast, the way she always walked in those days. Head down, arms tight, trying to get from point A to point B without making eye contact with anyone. She had learned that trick in her first month in Toronto. Keep moving. Look busy. Pretend you have somewhere important to be, even when the only place you are going is back to a basement apartment that smells like someone else's cooking. Adaeze had been in Canada for 14 months. 14 months of Tim Hortons cups on the counter at 5 in the morning. 14 months of taking the 501 streetcar with her shoes soaking through because she had not yet bought proper winter boots. Because proper winter boots cost $140 and she was sending money home every month. 14 months of smiling at people who looked through her like she was made of glass. She was 27 years old. She had a degree in accounting from the University of Lagos. She was working as a personal support worker in a long-term care facility in Scarborough, because that was the job that came first, and she had told herself it was temporary. 14 months later, it still felt temporary, but the savings account she had promised herself she would build was still sitting at $432. She was not unhappy. That was the thing people did not understand. She was not unhappy. She was just tired in a way that had nothing to do with sleep. That Tuesday, she was walking from the subway station to the grocery store on Kingston Road when she saw Mama Cecile. She did not know the woman's name yet. She only saw an old woman, maybe 70, maybe older, standing at the bus shelter with 3 large bags of groceries, sitting on the wet pavement around her feet. The woman was not crying. She was not calling for help. She was simply standing very still, looking at the bags, and then looking at the bus route sign above her head, and then looking back at the bags. The way you look at a problem you have already tried to solve 3 times and cannot figure out. Adaeze slowed down. She stopped. Most people did not stop. 2 men in suits walked past without looking. A woman with a stroller glanced over and then kept going. A teenager with headphones did not look up at all. Adaeze stood there for 3 seconds. She thought about the grocery store, closing at 8. She thought about the chicken that needed to be defrosted. She thought about how she had made a rule for herself about not getting involved in things, because getting involved in things cost time, and time was the one thing she never had enough of. Then she picked up 2 of the bags. "Mama, where are you going?" she said. She had not planned to say Mama. It just came out, the way it always did back home. The way she had greeted every older woman since she was small enough to sit on her grandmother's lap. The old woman turned and looked at her. She had silver hair cut close to her head and eyes that were very dark and very calm. She did not look frightened. She did not look like someone who needed rescuing. She looked like someone who was simply waiting to see what kind of person Adaeze was going to be. "Western Road," the woman said. "I take the 89 from here. I'll wait with you," Adaeze said. She did not know why she said that either. The woman's name was Cecile Beaumont Okafor. She had been born in Montreal and had lived in Toronto for 40 years. Her late husband had been Nigerian, from Anambra State, and when Adaeze told her where she was from, Mama Cecile made a sound that was almost like a laugh and said, of course you are." They waited 22 minutes for the 89 bus. In those 22 minutes, Adaeze learned that Mama Cecile lived alone since her husband had passed 3 years ago, that her right knee gave her trouble on cold days, that she still insisted on going to the big grocery store on Lawrence because the one on her street never had fresh okra. When the bus came, Adaeze helped her lift the bags on. Mama Cecile looked at her from the second step. "You have a good heart," she said. "Don't let this city take it from you." Then the doors closed, and she was gone. Adaeze stood on the pavement for a moment. The wind was still cold. Her toes were still wet. She had not gotten to the grocery store. The chicken would not be defrosted in time. She walked home thinking about the way Mama Cecile had said it. Not like a compliment, like a warning. 3 weeks later, Adaeze's supervisor called her into the office and told her that one of the residents had filed a complaint. The resident's name was Mr. Harrington. He was 81 years old and had been at Sunrise Gardens long-term care for 2 years. He was also, in Adaeze's private opinion, the most difficult man she had ever met in her professional life. And she had met many difficult people. He complained about his medication schedule. He complained about his meal portions. He complained that the PSW spent too much time on their phones, even though Adaeze had never once taken her phone out during a shift. The complaint said that Adaeze had been disrespectful during his morning care routine, that she had spoken to him in a harsh tone, that she had been rough when helping him with personal hygiene. None of it was true. Her supervisor, a woman named Karen, sat across from her at the desk with a manila folder between them and the kind of expression that said she did not necessarily believe the complaint, but she had a process to follow. "I have to document this, Adaeze," Karen said, "and we'll need to do an investigation. In the meantime, What? Adaeze said, and she kept her voice very even because she had learned that when she let any emotion into her voice in these moments, it became a different kind of problem. "In the meantime, we're going to have you on a different wing while we look into it." She was moved to the West Wing. It felt like a punishment, even though Karen had not called it a punishment. The other PSWs knew something had happened. People always knew in a place like that, and some of them were kind about it, and some of them were careful around her in a way that was almost worse than not being kind. She went home that evening and sat on the edge of her bed and stared at the wall. She had not done anything wrong. She knew this, the way she knew her own name. She had never in her life been rough with a resident. She had never once raised her voice at an old person, not even the difficult ones, because she had been raised to believe that elderly people carried a kind of dignity that you were obligated to protect, no matter what. But knowing you have done nothing wrong and being able to prove it were two different things, and Adaeze was not naive enough to think that the difference did not matter. She called her cousin Ngozi in Mississauga. Ngozi was practical and did not sugarcoat things. "Document everything," Ngozi said. "Every shift, every interaction, write it down with times. And find out if there are cameras." There were cameras in the hallways, but not inside the resident rooms, not where the morning care routine happened. She lay awake until 2 in the morning, thinking about that. The investigation took 11 days. In those 11 days, Adaeze learned things about herself she had not known before. She learned that she could go through the physical motions of a full workday while her mind was somewhere else entirely. She learned that anxiety had a particular weight that sat right behind her sternum and did not lift, not even when she slept. She learned that there was a version of loneliness that came not from being alone, but from being in a room full of people who were watching to see what happened to you. She also learned, on the 4th day, that the complaint against her had been encouraged by a colleague named Brittany. She did not learn this officially. She learned it because a PSW named Donna, who was close to retirement and did not care what anyone thought of her anymore, pulled Adaeze into the supply room on a Wednesday morning and told her plainly, "Brittany has been after your position since they posted the senior PSW opening," Donna said. "She told old Mr. Harrington that you were the one who messed up his medication timing last month. You weren't even on shift that day, but he's got memory issues, and she knew he wouldn't remember right." Adaeze stood very still in the supply room between the shelves of incontinence pads and hand sanitizer and thought about what Donna had just told her. She thought about 14 months of early mornings and wet shoes and $432 in savings. She thought about the nursing supervisor exam she had been studying for, the one she had already paid the registration fee for, the one that was supposed to be the next step. She thought about her mother back in Lagos who called every Sunday and asked how things were going, and to whom Adaeze always said fine. Everything is fine, because her mother had enough to worry about. "Thank you for telling me," she said to Donna. Her voice was steady. "Don't thank me," Donna said. "Just don't let her win." On the 8th day of the investigation, Adaeze received a text message from a number she did not recognize. "This is Cecile, the woman from the bus stop on Kingston Road. My son found your name from the care home. He is on the board of directors. I told him what you did for me. I think he wants to speak with you. I hope that is all right. Adaeze read the message 3 times. Then she sat down on the break room chair and read it a 4th time. She had not known, on that Tuesday in October, that the woman with the grocery bags was the mother of David Okafor. She had not known that David Okafor was a retired healthcare administrator who sat on the board of the Regional Long-Term Care Authority, which oversaw places like Sunrise Gardens. She had not known any of that. She had only seen an old woman at a bus stop with 3 bags and no help. She typed back, "Yes, that is all right." David Okafor was 53 years old and had the same calm eyes as his mother. He met Adaeze for coffee at a place on Danforth on a Thursday morning before her shift. He was not flashy about who he was. He ordered a regular coffee, not an Americano, not anything with a long name, just a regular coffee, and he sat across from her with his hands wrapped around the cup and listened to her. She told him everything, not because she had calculated that he could help her. She had not yet let herself think that far ahead, because thinking that far ahead and having it not work out would be worse than not hoping at all. She told him because he asked her directly, and he was looking at her the way his mother had looked at her at the bus stop, like he was trying to find out what kind of person she was. When she finished, he was quiet for a moment. "My mother said you called her Mama," he said. "She told me that was the first thing she noticed about you." Adaeze felt something loosen slightly in her chest. "It just came out," she said. "Back home, you greet every older woman that way." "I know," he said. "My father was from Anambra. I grew up with it." He did not make her any promises at that coffee. He said he would look into the process. He said that what she had described was serious and deserved a proper review. He said that if what Donna had told her was accurate, there should be other residents and staff who could corroborate the timeline. He said one more thing before they left. "My mother doesn't give people her number," he said. "In 40 years, I have never seen her do it. She said she knew you were someone worth knowing." The investigation concluded on the 11th day. The review found no evidence to support Mr. Harrington's complaint. It also found, through interviews with 3 other staff members who came forward once the formal process opened, that Brittany had a documented pattern of creating interpersonal difficulties with colleagues she considered competition. One of the staff members had a text message from Brittany, sent 2 weeks before the complaint, that said things that were not ambiguous at all. Brittany was placed on a formal performance plan. She did not stay long after that. Adaeze was cleared. She received a written apology from the facility director, not Karen, but the director above Karen, which was unusual enough that Donna said she had never seen it happen in 17 years. She stood in the parking lot after the meeting where they told her, and she breathed in the cold November air, and she let herself feel it for a moment. Not triumph. Not even relief exactly. Just the particular feeling of having gotten through something that could have broken her, and finding herself still standing. Mama Cecile had a habit of making Sunday soup. She had started it when she first came to Toronto with her husband 40 years ago, and she had never stopped, not even after he died, because some habits hold you together when everything else is shifting. She had told Adaeze about the Sunday soup during that 22 minutes at the bus stop, and Adaeze had not thought about it again until Mama Cecile texted her a few weeks after everything had settled down and asked if she would like to come by for a bowl. She went. She took the bus to Western Road and found a house that was modest from the outside and warm in a way that had nothing to do with the temperature when you stepped inside. There were photographs on every surface. There were plants in the kitchen window. There was a smell that hit Adaeze somewhere in the chest and took her home to Lagos for one involuntary second. She sat at Mama Cecile's kitchen table and ate ogbono soup with Iba, and they talked for 3 hours. About her husband, Emmanuel, who had taught mathematics at a community college for 20 years. About David, who had been a serious child who asked too many questions. About what it meant to build a life somewhere that was not the place you were born. "You think it gets easier?" Mama Cecile said, not as a question. "I'm still waiting to find out," Adaeze said honestly. Mama Cecile laughed, a real one, from somewhere low. "It doesn't get easier. You get stronger. There is a difference." Adaeze went back the next Sunday, and the one after that. In January, the senior PSW position was posted again. Adaeze applied. She had been studying for the nursing supervisor exam in the evenings, sitting at her kitchen table with her textbooks and a cup of Milo, the way she had studied for every exam since she was 12 years old. She submitted her application with 3 references. Karen was one of them. The director who had written her the apology letter was another. David called her one evening in February, not about the job. He was careful about that, always careful about where his role ended, but to check in, the way he had started doing once a month since the coffee on Danforth. He asked how she was. She told him about the exam prep. He told her about a project he was working on to improve the complaints process at several facilities across the region to make it harder for bad faith complaints to derail people's careers before evidence was properly examined. "You were not the first," he said. "That was the thing that bothered me most. You were not the first person this happened to." "I know," she said. "Well," he said, "you might be one of the last." She did not know what to do with the way his voice sounded when he said things like that. Careful and sure at the same time, like someone who had thought it through before he opened his mouth. She went back to her textbooks and did not think about it. Or she tried not to. She passed the nursing supervisor exam in March. She found out on a Thursday afternoon, standing in her coat in the vestibule of her building because the signal was better there. And when she saw the result, she pressed her back against the wall and closed her eyes for 30 seconds. She called her mother in Lagos. It was 11 at night there, but her mother picked up on the second ring the way she always did, as though she was always just slightly waiting. "Mama," Adaeze said. "I passed." The sound her mother made on the other end of the phone was not a word. It was just sound. The kind that carries every conversation you have not had, every worry kept quiet, every prayer said alone in the dark. "I knew," her mother said, when she could speak. "I always knew." Adaeze stood in the vestibule of her building with her coat still on and let herself cry for 3 minutes. Then she wiped her face and went upstairs and made jollof rice from scratch for the first time since she had moved in. Because it felt like the right thing to do, she brought a container of it to Mama Cecile on Sunday. Mama Cecile tasted it, set down her spoon, and looked at Adaeze with an expression that was very close to the one she had worn at the bus stop on Kingston Road. Measuring, certain. "Emmanuel would have liked you," she said. The senior PSW position was offered to Adaeze in April. She accepted it. The pay increase was not dramatic, but it was real, and more than the money was the feeling of being formally recognized in a place where she had fought hard just to remain standing. David texted her the day she told him. He did not say congratulations the way most people said it, as a word to be deployed and forgotten. He said, "You earned this. I watched how you handled all of it. It matters." She read it twice, and then put her phone down and looked out the window of the break room, at the parking lot and the grey April sky, and thought about a Tuesday in October, and wet chaise shoes, and 3 grocery bags, and an old woman standing at a bus stop who did not ask for help, but was waiting to see who would offer it. She thought about the 22 minutes she had almost not stayed for, the mama she had almost not said, the bags she had almost walked past because she was tired and the chicken needed to be defrosted, and she had a rule about not getting involved. What a small thing, she thought. What an ordinary, unremarkable, accidental thing, and how differently everything might have gone if she had kept walking. On a Sunday evening in May, Adaeze was helping Mama Cecile wash the soup pot when David came by. He did this sometimes, stopped in on Sunday evenings to check on his mother, and Adaeze had been there enough Sundays, now that it was not strange for her to be there too. He stood in the kitchen doorway and looked at the two of them at the sink, his mother handing Adaeze the heavy pot, and Adaeze steadying it without being asked, the two of them talking and laughing about something that had nothing to do with him. He did not say anything for a moment. His mother looked over and saw his expression and made a small sound that Adaeze did not catch. Later, when Mama Cecile had settled in her chair in the living room with her evening tea, David walked with Adaeze to the bus stop on Western Road. It was the same bus stop, the same shelter. The wind had the first warmth of spring in it. "Nothing like October," he said. "I want to take you to dinner, not as a thank you, and not because of anything to do with the facility or the board or any of that. Just dinner, if you want." Adaeze looked at him. He was looking back at her the same way his mother always did. Calm, waiting, not performing anything. "I want," she said. The 89 bus came around the corner and neither of them got on it. They stood there talking until the next one came, and then they let that one go too, and by the time they finally said goodnight, the street lights were on, and Adaeze's cheeks hurt from laughing, and the sky had gone that particular blue-purple that Toronto evenings sometimes turned in May, the color of something just about to begin. She took the bus home alone. She sat by the window and watched the city go past and thought about what Mama Cecile had said back in November, in the kitchen, over soup. It doesn't get easier. You get stronger. There is a difference. 14 months of wet shoes and 5 in the morning alarms and $432 and keeping her voice even when she wanted to scream. That was not a detour. That was the path, every bit of it. She pressed her forehead lightly against the cool bus window and smiled at nothing in particular, at the streetlights and the dark road and the city that had been so hard and was slowly, finally, starting to feel like hers.